Greetings to all. I'm glad to see you again, this time for the discovery of an imposing knife with one of the thickest blades on the market. We're talking about the DMP from Extrema Ratio. This DMP can be described as a multi-purpose knife, but it can be said to fall into the category of outdoor knives designed for survival. Let's take a look at its advantages and disadvantages. Extrema Ratio also offers the Giant Mamba, which is very similar in size and style to the DMP, but has a much more classic drop-point blade than a tanto blade, and should appeal to more of us, starting with me. I think the look of the DMP is particularly good, and that's why I filmed it from all angles in this video, so you can appreciate the design. Such a beautiful design is not surprising, since Extrema Ratio is an Italian brand, and the Italian industry has always stood out for its design expertise. To quote a press article on the subject, Italian designers have been demonstrating boldness, fantasy, and modernity for over 50 years, and are still considered to be the masters of design. This DMP is no exception, with its rather cubic yet ergonomic handle, and above all its sublime, well-designed blade which, like the Giant Mamba, has a narrower gutter. Aside from its dimensions, there's little information on this knife to be found on the web. In fact, few websites sell it, and I find this rather surprising, since in the Extrema Ratio catalog, which includes dozens of knives, this is one of the models that most appealed to me. I've always appreciated sturdy Odor knives that you can rely on in the wild, even if their size means they're best suited to heavy-duty tasks. They're generally good big knives that don't leave you indifferent. A thick blade is stronger, designed for strong cuts in wood. But the downside is that penetration into the material requires more effort. This is because the greater angle and thickness of the blade behind the wire have to make their way through. More contact surface means more resistance, more friction, and more pressure to cut. This requires more force, more energy. Moreover, the weight of the blade provides a good deal of inertia, which helps penetrate the wood when you strike a blow. For fine wood carving, such a knife is clearly not the model of choice. Small, easy-to-handle, thin-bladed knives are much more suitable. However, if you sharpen the blade very well, you're bound to gain in performance. That's why, with this type of large blade, you need to take particular care to ensure a good cutting edge, so don't hesitate to check the edge regularly and resharpen if necessary. For my part, I mainly use small pocket stones such as Faldkniven's DC3 or DC4. You can take them with you wherever you go, and they're great for resharpening when the edge is dull. It's not easy on such a big blade, but they do the trick. Speaking of Faldkniven, this DMP can be considered an alternative to certain Swedish knife models such as the S1 and A1, since in terms of size and weight, the DMP falls somewhere between the two. The weight is not excessive, despite the imposing blade. The knife remains easy to handle. As I said, the advantage of such a knife is that it offers a great deal of inertia, so it's very efficient when cutting on the fly. This is a knife with which you can make cuts that would normally be reserved for a hatchet or machete. It's strong enough for that. There is always debate about the role of a knife, and some people are generally right in believing that a knife should not be used for certain purposes. However, the use of an axe can be dangerous, especially when splitting small logs. The movement of the axe is very wide, and poor control of the trajectory can result in serious injury. This requires good positioning. When batoning or cross-cutting with a knife, the risk is much lower for the user, but still not negligible for the blade. The blade descends vertically in a much more controlled manner. Progress through the wood is achieved by successive controlled strokes. This is why, in a survival situation, such a knife can be used for many purposes, starting with cutting wood, making a fire, building a shelter, preparing traps, or even digging. One of the special features of the DMP is its flat grind, which is convex for Faldkniven. The flat grind is easier to sharpen and, given its thickness, will not be particularly brittle. The steel is N690 Kio from Böhler, an Austrian alloy with a long-standing reputation for this type of knife. It resists oxidation, holds its edge well, sharpens easily, and is quite strong. It has an HRC rating of 58, so it's not excessively hard, which is good for avoiding the risk of breakage. The N690 is quite comparable to Faldkniven's Japanese VG10. So, technically speaking, these knives are quite similar. The DMP's strength is enhanced by its blade geometry and thickness. The handle is made of forprene, a tough polymer. As with the giant mamba, although this is not mentioned on the datasheet, the through tang is probably threaded to ensure a perfect fit. As it exits, it forms a cylindrical or rather conical heel into which a lanyard can be attached. The grip is good, and the forprene is soft and supple enough to absorb vibrations. My knife comes in Ranger Green, but is also available in other tactical military colors such as HCS, Desert, Wolf Gray, and Black. The jimping on the back of the blade near the handle is very wide, as on the giant mamba. A soft, effective jimping that also contributes to the style of this knife. The false cutting edge on the back of the tip helps to refine it. Another special feature of this DMP is its very prominent and therefore very protective guard. As you can see, when working without gloves, the hand receives quite a lot of shock and scratches. The guard limits these impacts and, of course, prevents the hand from slipping towards the edge. This is one of the major differences with the giant mamba, which has no guard. It's a positive point, because during intensive, repetitive work, fatigue can cause us to relax our vigilance a little and have a less firm grip. The hole in the guard allows a lanyard to be passed through to secure the grip. The sheath is very effective. The knife can be stored on either side, so it's practical for both right and left-handed users. The belt loop is extended by a strap that attaches to the leg. This prevents the knife from wandering. Compatible with the Moly system, this sheath is made of shock-resistant nylon, designed to prevent noise. It's perforated, which speeds blade drying. But the main reason is probably weight savings. The knife is held securely in place by a practical trigger system and 2 pressure buttons. A simple pull on the trigger releases the blade. The system is highly efficient, reliable, and even pleasant to use. In conclusion, this DMP is a knife primarily developed for the military, thanks to its tactical look and the colors offered. The sheath is designed to carry the knife ostentatiously along the thigh, something you wouldn't do in civilian life. But this knife also has the characteristics of an outdoor knife, or rather a survival knife. The thickness of the blade makes it theoretically very robust. It's a knife that's going to be effective for rough tasks on wood, but which should be complemented by a small bladed knife for carving and preparing food if you're more into finesse. Unlike the giant mamba, its point makes it more versatile, capable of piercing and planting much more easily. It's a beautiful knife with a unique, modern style that inspires confidence. It can be found on the internet for $266. A high price indeed, but within the average for this type of survival knife. It's one of those knives that you acquire for many years, even a lifetime. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, to share and comment. See you soon with more knives.